thank you guys for coming. I'm glad to see there's so many of you out there in our Zoom world. It seems like this is a good time for us to think about scheduling some additional chats that we have in mind coming up. So let's kick things off. This is our first one since the conference. So what we're talking about today is, are your veterinary preceptors equipped to teach? And Denise Champagne is here to help us solve that. As a veterinary educator, consultant, and clinical teaching advocate, Denise partners with technician programs, DVM colleges, and clinical sites to strengthen the bridge between the classroom and the clinic. Her work equips preceptors not only with the tools and templates they need, but also the confidence and clarity to truly support student learning. With a background that spans youth science education, clinical training, and graduate work at Lincoln Memorial University, Denise brings a unique lens and practical solutions to the widespread need in our field. She's here today to share some strategies, spark some ideas, and help us take the next step in elevating our preceptor development efforts. So please join me in welcoming Denise. And Denise, I am going to let you be alone in the video and turn mine off, and I will watch that chat for you so you don't have to monitor that.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you everybody for coming to the middle of your day. Hopefully it does look like it was a good time. So that's awesome. I will try to make sure that I'm respectful of your time and that we will be, out of here by 3 o'clock. But I would like this to be a fireside chat. So I would love to have, once we get to the Q&A part, or even I'm going to have some kind of questions to you in the middle, because this is part of my discovery for making sure that what I am doing is what you all need. So I do have some slides just to kind of keep things going a little bit here. Make sure this works.
You're
All
good.
right. Does that show up okay?
Yep, you're in great shape.
All right, awesome. So I'll give you guys, well, you have a little bit of information about me, but the way that this came up for me was in my veterinary education master's degree at LMU. I've found a huge part of the struggles that people were running into was because of our distance programs and other externships. It can be challenging finding out, what exactly is happening with our students that are out there in the wild. So I started looking into this. And I just want to start with a quick story, and you guys can, actually, I'm going to open up my chat too, just so I can see what's going on out there. See if this kind of rings a bell at all for anybody in your programs. Student on their externship, okay, shadowing a very highly skilled technician. Technician can set a catheter in seconds. We always end up having our students, hopefully, with the best skilled technicians. So, this technician was saying, student, the teacher, the technician teacher was great, fast, quick. Student watched, then tried, and then fumbled it the first time. Of course, right? Expected. Preceptor then just sighs, says, here, watch me again, and does it again for him. Okay, this happens multiple times during their shadowing on that first day. By the end of the day, that student felt embarrassed and honestly said, I wasn't sure if I was still really cut out for this profession. Okay, when we are talking about this situation, I am not saying that the technician was a bad person. I'm definitely not saying they're a bad clinician, but they weren't thinking as a teacher. Okay? And our preceptors are not trained educators. So sometimes we get a situation where the technician that they're working with is, the number one tech on the team. But that's not always the best case. Okay, what we need is somebody who wants to teach, and then we have to help them. Okay, we have to train them how to teach. The influence in these preceptors is huge on our students, right? Because they can either come out confident, or it can break their spirit if they feel like they're failing. Right? And that's why we're here. Does this ring a bell slightly with anybody? Has anybody come into this situation? You can just drop a yes in the chat, or no. It's possible that, this is not happening everywhere. I hope it's not happening everywhere. Right? But I've seen students, you've probably seen students who come back from their externships who are inspired and capable and doing wonderful things, right? They're beginning, so of course they're not going to be perfect, right? But we don't want them to come back discouraged. Okay, what happens on those externship sites with those preceptors matters. But we're not there with them. So today what I just want to kind of talk about briefly is, the benefits of preceptor training, not just for the students. That's somewhat obvious in our last discussion there, their last story, but for your programs and for the preceptors themselves. I'm going to talk about some of the key takeaways from my research for my capstone project that I did at LMU CVM for the master's program, and a solution that I've built to kind of support these program students and preceptors. So benefits of training our preceptors. Okay, improves student outcomes, strengthens the program and practice partnerships, and reduces stress for everybody. Students and preceptors, and then the externship coordinators. And of course, part of the CVTA requires schools to have contact with the preceptors and get some feedback. Okay, but what does that look like in real life? Okay, preceptors are fantastic clinicians. Generally, many have had no training on how to teach. I combine that with the busy practice, and students can end up with a whole variety of different kinds of experiences. They might get a wonderful mentorship. They might get a barely there supervision. They might get the just watch me and good luck. And then when it comes down to actually having the forms, the preceptor returning the forms or giving feedback in any manner, a lot of times it's quite vague, or it's late, or you have to chase it. Okay, have you ever had to do that? Have you ever had to go fishing to try to find some feedback, some answers? Yes, yes, yes. I see. Another story. See if this sounds familiar to you. This was actually a veterinary college director. Told me about a student evaluation form. So this is a veterinary student, not a technician student. The comment said, fill in the blank, student's name, did a good job. That was it. Yikes, right? How are we going to do anything with that? Okay, the student reported back that the preceptor was critical and distant the entire time. So what does that give us? What does that even mean? How are we sending people out into our community practices to learn, and then us as a program to learn how our students are doing if we get did a good job as the answer? Now, without training, the preceptors don't necessarily know how to give useful feedback. Okay, how to give clear, useful, productive information for the school. Okay, student leaves confused. School has no data. I don't know what did a good job means. Preceptor feels like they did their job. Okay, because they gave us feedback. Okay, does that sound familiar? Anybody here have that kind of situation? And then there's always the stress. All day long. Yeah, right? This stress and this is actual direct quotes. A technician told me, a technician preceptor said, I love teaching, I really do, but sometimes I feel like I'm failing both the student and my patients. I don't know how to balance showing them things, giving feedback, and still keeping up with my caseload. Okay, that kind of stress does not only burn out the preceptors, it also trickles down to the student. The student can feel it. Right, so instead of growth and skill development, the externship turns into just a source of tension. Okay, for you as a instructor or program director, you are trying to say, what does this mean? What does this give me? How is my student doing? So it is literally stress and tension for everybody. So when I was working on my capstone, I just kind of wanted to get a few things that I could attempt to try to help and fix and work with schools, work with preceptors and students to make this better, right? We do not need any more stress in our industry for sure. Key number one, preceptors are educators, not just clinicians. Okay, a veterinarian told me, direct quote, I thought if I just showed a student how I did a spay, they'd learn. Okay, so she performed the surgery, didn't explain a whole lot as she was going along, and then later the student said, I had no idea what was happening step by step. Are they supposed to? Right. Then we could have a preceptor who thinks like a teacher, who thinks like an educator. Even just that key mind shift is huge. They don't necessarily have to have adult learning theory to say, slow down, pause at each stage, explain what she's doing, ask the student to talk it through her, through it with her. Right, that way the student walks away more confident, engaged, and ready to take on some more. Okay, those are simple and easy things that we can suggest with our preceptors when we're talking with them. If we can talk with them, if we have time to talk with them. That case, same procedure, two different outcomes, right? How do I prep us for technicians? How do I prep this patient for surgery? Right, you could just watch, or you can be engaged with it, right? With our preceptor, with our trainer. One thought like a teacher and the other didn't. And this is not something I think that we can assume that our veterinarians or technicians that are working with our students come to realize. Okay, they think that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, showing our students what to do, but there's a little bit more to it. So schools can strengthen their outcomes by supporting preceptors. And I should mention too, in my research, when I was talking with a variety of different schools and different preceptors, one of the things that kind of came up was a disconnect between preceptors feeling like they're sort of out in the wind, even if they had a question, and then the schools saying, I'm not getting any feedback. So there's a disconnect. A short structured workshop for preceptors, okay, could really, really help. Basics of adult learning theory. Setting some goals, how to set goals and expectations. Assessments, giving feedback. Okay, these are things that we learn as educators, but all veterinarians do not know. Okay, all of vet technicians do not know. Okay, anybody who is still in practice, if you are an educator as well, you kind of have that little gap in between where you felt like I'm a great technician, or I'm a veterinarian, I want to give back, yet I don't know how to teach. Okay, if we're going to expect our students to come back as confident, competent technicians, we need to make sure that the expectations for the preceptors are clear so they can do the best job that they can. They want to. Right? Students come back with better skills. You get evaluation forms with detail that you can use data for your programs. And once we get that flow, preceptors actually start asking to take students. Right? That can be a challenge too, finding places or your students looking for places to go. If you have preceptors that are feeling good about everything, they will be asking. Okay, why not? It's like a giant, long, free interview. You can find out how they're doing. You can find out how they handle stress. You can find all the things that you want as a preceptor who is working with a student. Do we want to hire them in the future? Right, that investment paid off. Happy preceptors, stronger relationships with the school and the clinical site. When if you can drop into the chat if any of those particular things, let me see if I can go back here a slide. If any of these things are on your wish list, students coming back with better skills, evaluation forms in more detail, preceptors asking, do any of these sound like something you would put on your wish list? I'm just here to see if I have kind of a good take on what we really need here as an industry to help our students. All. Name of all of the above. Great. Because what I want to do, you like the idea of a short workshop. And, when I said that originally, in one of my discussions with some program directors, they said, well, I don't know if the preceptors are going to want to do that, if they're going to want to take that time. But if they understand how much easier it will be for them once they do that, okay, how much easier it will be for them to understand how to give feedback, not stress about that. Okay, understand how to set goals with your students. Okay, how to have a good supportive relationship with the school. Okay, that's something that they're asking for. And honestly, I've heard that this is not just in vet medicine. I was talking to someone about this about a month ago, and she said, you know what, in our school, the radiology department has the same issues that we do. Okay, getting limited feedback, having a difficult time getting information from the wild when they send their students out. Let's see if we can get, there we go. So when I was doing my research and talking with everybody, and I hope that we'll have a decent amount of time at the end for you guys to give me your thoughts as well. Having a framework, okay, I've created a lead model framework to help get our preceptors kind of engaged and on the right path. And one person said to me that they used to think that they could just maybe avoid giving feedback, okay? Because they didn't really know how to say it, and they wanted to do it correctly, and they wanted it to be beneficial. They wanted it to, help our students, but it was just better. It was easier if they didn't. Okay. Um, so now with I have a framework, it's easier. Okay, student improves faster. That's enjoyable, right? Not feeling drained, not feeling like it's just one more thing added to the technician's huge list of responsibilities. Right? That's what I want to emphasize. Okay, preceptor training doesn't have to add more to their week. It doesn't have to make things longer or more difficult. We want it to be easy. We want it to be rewarding. And we want our students to benefit. All right, so we had a whole bunch of yeses here. Now, for the benefit of kind of the rest of our discussion here, what's one challenge? You can just pick one of these. Okay, just hit like type number 1 and then answer number 2, answer number 3, answer. What is one challenge you've seen most with preceptors struggling, okay, in your program? Okay, what does your program struggle with most? Or what is the challenge you see with your student experiences? All right, let me just open the chat here a little bit. Giving constructive feedback. Yeah. Time to mentor. Feedback. How to give a fair response. Understanding what coaching a student looks like. Yeah. Allowing students to perform the task. Yeah, that was kind of like that initial story, right? Is here, you watch me. You can try and then you don't get it, I'm going to take it away. Returning the needed paperwork. Engagement. Not knowing how to teach. Program struggles with contact. Yeah. So much good stuff here, guys. Thank you so much for participating and adding all of this. Social skills of the students. Clinics taking in students but not allowing any extra time for teaching to happen. Yeah, too busy, right? We've heard that. Oh, Preceptor loses their LVT and only has unlicensed techs, so we can't use them. Boo. They feel left out. Yeah, this is great. Not slowing down, thinking it's good enough. Excellent, excellent. Oh, yeah. Student lack of soft skills. Yeah, that's more stuff that we have to work on, right? Not being approachable, being intimidating. Yeah, great. Thank you. So what I see, and what I started to develop was trying to think of solutions, right? Because, oh, toxic environments I see down there. That one is, yeah, not getting to practice skills. I think a lot of that can be handled, I guess would be a word we could use, where we want to move from all of these people. These preceptors are not taking in students because they don't want to, right? They are taking them in, and then they just don't know what to do from here. Okay, so good intentions. Yes, I would imagine all these people have good intentions. But then we need to get consistent results. Okay, we can't expect preceptors to figure out adult education theory on their own. And schools do not necessarily need to build a full training program from scratch. I'm going to save all these great ideas here. You know, technician preceptor who really wants to do a good job, okay, feels a little bit lost. Don't really know what to do. She's had some training on setting expectations and giving feedback, and then all of a sudden, okay, they go from dreading it to actually asking. Okay, students ask for feedback, preceptors ask for feedback. Okay, is this the best way for you to learn? How is it that you like to, learn? Do you want to read about it first? Can I show you and then have you work on it? Don't forget to ask questions. Okay, that's the power of equipping the preceptors. Okay, it's just going to make it easier for everyone. Now, the new program I created is the Vet Preceptor Academy and Preceptor HQ. I'll just tell you a little bit about it, and then we can probably wrap up a little bit sooner than quarter of. But during my research, I had so many stories about talented clinicians who wanted to help, but they don't know how. Students who struggled. Guys, schools stuck in the middle. So what I developed for my capstone was a workshop that gives preceptors basic training on assessments, goal setting, feedback, using my model, my framework. A continued place for ongoing support. So there will be basically like a membership where we're going to have ongoing support. So once a month group coaching, templates, a community. Okay, preceptors getting together. Okay, talking about things that matter to them. Okay, getting some coaching from me on situations. Wouldn't it be nice for them, to have somebody where they could just say, hey, this happened with this student. Okay, and I could say either, give some advice or tell them who to contact at their school to find out specifically about this student. Right? If every preceptor had some access to support that they could get when they wanted it, I think would be super beneficial. Programs win when the preceptors are supported. So just, for the future, if this resonates with you, if you want to set up a call just to kind of talk about the needs of your program in this area, I would love to do that. It helps me as well, kind of know that we're on the right track. The story that I started with, imagine that preceptor had been given some training and support. Okay, that one student's story could have looked completely different. Okay, it's really, really important for us to give the support for the people who are working with our students. Okay, we want to send out competent, confident technicians into the world, and we need to make sure that they're finding what they need when we send them out onto their externships. When we invest in the preceptors, we invest in the future, right, of our vet medicine. So I'm gonna open for Q&A. I would love to hear any questions, any stories, any challenges that you all are having, because what I want to do is help you fix it. Right. For any contact, if you guys would like to chat, you can email me your veterinary career success at gmail.com. We can just set up a Zoom call to chat. And I would love, love, love to get your feedback. Okay, the initial idea of this fireside chat was because I talked with another program director, and I said, I just want to hear. I just want to hear from the programs. I want to hear from the instructors. I want to hear from everybody about what they're dealing with. Okay, and so that we can together help our programs.